When was the first moment in your life that you realized that you were a freak?
I had a T-shirt that I used to wear obsessively that had a number of adjectives on it that were all extremely aggressive and Saturnian, and so I thought it was completely radical at the time. But I remember that whenever anybody asked me about this T-shirt, I always get very aggressive and defensive, as if I was protecting something that I didn't understand.
That sounds about right. What were some of the words?
Shit, well, this is the thing I'm trying to remember, but they were all. Do you remember the brand No Fear?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, so we're talking the mid-90s, so it's like all adjectives you could ascribe to extreme sports,
Hmm.
I'd imagine.
Like radical and stuff.
Radical, awesome, fearless, courageous,
Uh-huh.
extreme,
Uh-huh.
this kind of stuff.
And was it in like goth letters or something?
Oh yeah, yeah, it was. I don't think it was in black letter per se, but it was a black T-shirt, big white text.
Uh-huh.
It was loud. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So people ask did people ask you about it in an accusatory or like perplexed way, or like
Yeah,
what
I
was
think
their
I think
approach?
accusatory is the way that I received it,
Uh-huh.
irrespective of what they thought they were doing.
What did you think they were accusing you of?
Mm, I just fell into a cul-de-sac. This T-shirt, that's so funny. Well, I'll tell you what led me to glitch is because I've actually been looking at the etymology of the word, right?
The word freaks?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's been having me firing on all cylinders about it
Uh-huh.
because, in a very basic sense, the word, like a lot of words, just means like warrior, bold, all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But somewhere in the Middle Ages, it took on this more, well, freakish connotation.
Hmm.
It started to be associated with dancing and unpredictable behavior or
Mm.
whimsical behavior. And a particular word that I found linked to it was capricious, which I thought was
Hmm.
fantastic because when I think of the word freak, I think of goat like, I think of like Dionysus.
Uh-huh.
Okay? And we've got this association with all the freaks that I know and that I've met, and the part of me that I associate with being a freak, it is to do with some kind of ecstatic impulse
Mm.
that we can see always at the peripheries of different religious and cultural institutions, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think, like a lot of us, that's a place that we found quite interesting to be. And a lot of that is to do with the types of people we tend to bump into at those peripheries, which I encapsulate as freaks.
Yeah. So I really want to figure out what this connection with this shirt and that place is.
Yes.
And it must have something to do with the feeling that arose in you when people were like, "What is up with your shirt?" And I don't
Yeah.
expect you to be able to articulate exactly how, but like, can you tell me about like the line from that moment, or like that period of your life, and like the first gathering of freaks that you consciously wandered into? How did you know they were your
Mm.
people? What was the resonance?
It was a value match.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of this can be folded into quite general understandings of the counterculture.
Uh-huh.
Like I have never particularly considered myself like a contrarian for the sake of it, but I do often tend to find myself taking the contrary position
Mm-hmm.
in events and situations, and there's definitely a through line from that T-shirt to what I found myself doing in later life
Mm-hmm.
that is riding that same wave.
So maybe it was just like wanting to be on the other side of something from the people who were who thought there was something up with the shirt.
Yeah, I think so. yeah, in a very basic sense, like I was very frustrated with being a child
Mm.
and having having very squishy boundaries all around me.
Uh-huh.
It just didn't suit my I feel like it didn't suit my personality very well, you know, outside of any kind of broader, like lofty philosophical reasons.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So do you mean the squishiness? Like the like it seems like there's a
Mm.
contrast here
Yeah,
between
yeah,
like
the squishiness because it, you know, if I look at like the through line from my Saturn return to now, so you know, I'm at the opening sextile after my Saturn return. The whole story on one level was getting all right with squishiness,
mm,
giving and receiving squishiness.
mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm,
when I look at my 20s, which was sort of like peak freak activity, um, found myself running like a little too hot,
uh-huh,
and I wasn't creating the kind of nourishing environment around myself and for myself um, that I wanted to.
mm-hmm,
Um, but the whole idea of you know this when I think about this concept, right, of freaks
yeah,
as like a Dionysian current, it's it runs hot because it is implicitly a ritual access
mm-hmm,
taking place on the edge of society.
mm-hmm,
You know, like you go into the woods to be a freak.
mm-hmm.
The you know about the dancing plagues in Europe?
Well, actually, I can't remember exactly what the story is that I thought I remembered, but it was like there were people dancing all over the place as some sort of like contagious phenomenon that was happening.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
And there were a bunch of them. Um, the most famous of which has the brilliant name as the Dancing Plague of 1518,
Uh-huh.
where somewhere between 50 and 400 people spontaneously took to dancing for weeks.
Nice.
And there have been all sorts of ideas about what this was. Like, you know, that you often get the sort of thing about like it was like ergot wheat,
Uh-huh.
but um, most people seem to come down on the fact that these people were just extremely stressed out,
Uh-huh.
and it erupted into, you know, convulsions in the body. You know, like when a mammal, I can't speak for all animals, but I certainly know that when mammal takes a shock, um, it mainlines it down through the body, right? Shakes it down,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I feel that freaks are doing that for the wider
Oh, yeah.
culture.
Cool. So, I'm really taken with three textures that I've detected in what you're saying so far. There's squishy,
Mm,
there's rigid, and then there's shaking. Or something
yes.
it's a sort of like an activation between the two,
Mm,
and that also reminds me a lot of the way that people in our, let's say, century dance at freak gatherings, although I'm sure that it has everything in common at a fundamental level with the way that this has always happened.
mm,
You're telling this cool story about it being involuntary, but like we also, both of us have long histories with
yes.
subcultures of people like setting up speakers in places and doing it on purpose.
Yes. Yes.
Is that an experience that you had early, like the connection with music and with I mean, you've used the word counterculture um almost as though it's like a force of nature, like it's just the thing that happens wherever there is culture everywhere, and that those things all have something in common. But like there are also particular subcultures that arise for particular reasons or in response to particular things, and I'm interested in the part of your story where like you found subcultures that felt like a place for you to be, and then like they were doing something, and I presume a lot of it was shaking their bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How did you find that part of your practice?
Yeah. Well, the first way it came in with any kind of force was through black metal
Uh-huh.
when I was a teenager. And there's definitely a t-shirt callback there, because when I discovered this music that had very little regard for production value
Mm.
and was on the surface all about the most transgressive Judeo-Christian values you can imagine. It it lit something up that was dormant in me, and yeah, it wasn't until a lot later that I found, for lack of a better term, like dance music and rave culture and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was initially just violently throwing my head around.
What did it unlock in you to do that? To do the actual like physical component of that?
It was something to do with introducing me to the power of cosmic absolutes.
Wow.
In this sense, a lot of the thematic undercurrent is the reality of evil, and the I guess you could say, like, I don't know if nihilism is the right term, but like man in the face of the overpowering force of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sublime.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sublime experience.
Uh-huh.
I needed to feel like I was under the shadow of a mountain.
Whoa.
That woke me up.
Uh-huh. That sounds like a very solitary experience, or at least like an inward experience.
Mm.
Was there a point at which you sort of looked around and realized that there were like 100 people also doing this, and then these became your people?
Yeah, I would say it wasn't until much later though.
Uh-huh. So not in the metal part, in the rave part. That was where that happened. There was a sort of texture change first.
Yeah, well, I feel so. There was a powerful sense of communion with the metal stuff,
Uh-huh.
but in terms of like feeling as if I was meeting other people on a soul level in this way, that didn't come until I was getting into sort of rave culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me there were real obstacles in my teens preventing me from being able to open to other people.
Mm.
And it wasn't until a combination of syncopated music and plant teachers that I was able to sort of pick my head up and out and actually see that there were lots of people around me the whole time.
Syncopated music and plant teachers. So like what so was there anything to this first the metal part, like it was just about the music for you? This was just like a sonic experience that you were having?
It was a philosophical experience.
Uh-huh.
It effectively pushed me into recognizing the way I was behaving in the world was pretty pagan, for lack of a better term. Uh, um, it was like a summoning.
Mm. A summoning of what? Of who?
A summoning of me to some kind of primeval font of energy that is always there, that I didn't know how to find.
Mm-hmm.
That when I did, I immediately recognized and felt course through my body and rejuvenate me.
You talk about this part as though it was very particular chapter. It led you to sort of other scenes with different aesthetics and practices and people, and and you've said also that now you feel like you're kind of at the beginning of a new transformation that is that is in contrast to sort of the force that you were describing earlier about this first metal phase. I'm interested in what this primordial energy source, like what's the um like, is it the same? Is there something in common that all of these phases share as a source? And like,
Yeah,
how is it changing as it manifests for you?
yeah. So the energy has remained the same the entire time. The difference between, let's say, like the metal phase and everything that came later was my ability to recognize that it was a communal experience.
Uh-huh.
Um, when I did, I started having a lot more fun.
Uh-huh.
I can say that. Um, and when I speak about now feeling like I'm trying to bring in some kind of squishiness, that's really just like a grounding process after getting completely blown off the face of the earth for a little too long.
Uh-huh. Okay, so who did you meet in that opening up of the experience from being a sort of inward philosophical and ecstatic experience for you to a communal experience? And I don't mean specifically necessarily, although if that's the way the answer comes up, that's wonderful. But like, what were the others like, and what function did they serve in your sort of personal transformation?
Tricksters.
Uh-huh.
Lots of trickster archetypes suddenly, because the thing that was preventing the opening was a lack of levity,
Mm.
playfulness, and uh, the type of person that could actually break through that and draw me out into it was a pronounced feature of this phase.
Mm-hmm.
I was, and again, I associate it with the plants as well because they adopted this role.
Uh-huh.
Everything just invited me to come and dance.
Did it feel like a diverse bunch of characters? And I mean to include the plants in this question, like
Mm.
the all of the kinds of beings that were around you. Did they feel, because the word trickster sort of implies to me an originality, or uh uh and also like a shape shifting, a transformation from one moment to the next.
Mm.
Like, did you feel like there were lots of ways of being around you, or did it feel like a sort of
Yeah,
communal,
no,
unified experience?
absolutely, absolutely. Because um, the feeling of inspiration I got from being around so many people pursuing their unique interpretation of how to exist and how to be embodied was the permission it gave me to, essentially realize that I can play whatever character I wish.
Hmm. Was that something you didn't know you could do, or wanted to do, or had the permission to do?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, because before it was like I was stuck in opposition to my former self, and neither of those selves were actually fit.
Hmm. Neither
Yeah.
the original or the opposing version were like able to fit into the rest
Yeah,
of the story.
that's right. So the one that I was conditioned into, and then my reaction to that,
Uh-huh.
neither of those were me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was in there somewhere in like ill-fitting clothes, you know?